So people don't really get how powerful that is. You don't earn your way to a fortune, you invest your way, you compound it. Most people are trading time for money. And as an entrepreneur, that's the worst trade you can ever make.
How much do you understand money? Think of the language you're speaking right now. How long did it take you to learn this language? How many years you spent learning, writing, and speaking the language you're speaking right now? How much time you spend learning about computer or the internet? Now the question is, how much focus, education did you get about money when you were growing up? How much time did you spend learning about how money works, how to make money, and how to create wealth as an adult? Do you speak the language of money, which is accounting? Do you understand these words? Words such as retained earnings, return on investments, depreciation, cost of goods sold, accounts payable, accounts receivable. All these words, that's what made up the language of money. How money actually works. You see, how can you understand a language? How do you master a language when you don't even understand the words? You first have to understand the words, then you can master the language, then you can use the language. But first, you have to understand how money works so you can become a master of money.
The reason the rich don't work for money is number one expense is tax. See, there's three kinds of income: earned, portfolio, passive. So earned income is if I get a job, that's earned income. If I'm a doctor or a programmer, that's earned income because I'm working for it. If I buy, let's say, Apple for $10 and I sell it for $20, that's portfolio income, capital gains.
Yeah.
But passive income, which is cash flow, is never taxed. So it's not, and so these guys are screaming right now in America, tax the rich. I said, good luck. Because most of the guys complaining, they don't know there's three kinds of income. And the rich don't have jobs anyway. They have assets. And so the average schmo out there, poor guy, sent the kid to school. They don't learn this. So that's why in Fake, as you were talking about it, there's a newspaper article about Jared Kushner. Yeah. And he explains how the Trumps and the Kushners don't pay taxes and make millions of dollars. And the reporter couldn't understand him because our schools will never teach you that three types of income.
Money really is fairly simple. It's just hard to do. There's only about 4 or 5 things you got to do to win. You have to live on less than you make. You need to live on a plan, a written budget. You need to get out of debt, because when you don't have any payments, you have money. Your most powerful wealth-building tool is your income. You've got to learn to save and invest. And you can't do that when you're in debt, don't have a plan, and don't live on less than you make. You know why people don't put money in their 401k and their Roth IRAs? Because they don't have any money, because it's all going out the door in stupid butt car payments. And Sally Mae's got her own bedroom at your house because she's lived there for so long. This is pretty simple stuff, guys. It may be primitive. It may be easy to understand, but it is very hard to do because it has everything to do with you changing your heart and the way you function and the way you live your life.
First thing that you've got to be aware of is where your money is coming in from, how much money is coming in, and how much money is going out. So what I'm talking about here is, first of all, your income. Okay? You've got to know what your income is, as well as your expenses. Now, you first have to know where you're at. Okay, you can never be blind to your finances. And I find that a lot of people, including myself, because I had times in my life where I was broke and I was struggling and I got into credit card debt. And the reason why you get into credit card debt or any kind of debt oftentimes is because of a lack of awareness and paying attention to these two simple things, your income and expenses. Very important. And what happens for a lot of people is because they know they're racking up debt and they're not tracking things properly, they avoid looking at this because they don't want to confront and face the pain of seeing the reality of being in debt.
I want to look forward. I want to think about where my money should go. I want to set up the systems to automatically make it happen. And then I want to live my life guilt-free and spend extravagantly on the things I love, as long as I cut costs mercilessly on the things I don't. I call this a conscious spending plan. All of us have different things that we intuitively love spending money on. Some people want to have a beautiful apartment or a really nice car. Other people want to travel 1 month a year. All of these things are totally valid, but we all choose our own rich life. Here's a really simple way to look at where your money should be going. 50 to 60% of your take-home money should generally be going to fixed costs. These are things like your rent, your mortgage, your utilities. At a minimum, 10% should be going to investments. These are long-term retirement investments. Next is short-term savings goals. This is where 5 to 10% of your money will go. And these are things like saving for a down payment on a house, gifts, or a vacation. And finally, this is my favorite part, 20 to 35% goes to guilt-free spending. This is eating out at restaurants, buying new clothes, taking your friends or family out with you on vacation. Whatever you want for your rich life, that's where this money goes. So I gave you these rules of thumb. How do you create your conscious spending plan? Well, I want to introduce something called the think, want, do technique. Just take a blank piece of paper and write down how much you think you are spending in each of these categories. Write down how much you want to spend in these categories. And then the third part is to find out how much you actually do spend in these categories. So take a look at your spending over the last 30 days, find out how much money is going to your fixed costs versus your investments, savings, and finally guilt-free spending. And now you are going to know what type of changes you need to make to flow the money for your conscious spending plan.
Let's talk a little bit about automated savings.
I am a
you're a huge fan of that.
Huge fan. Tip number one is pay yourself first.
Right.
Because what most of us do is we struggle through the month, we do whatever we can, and at the end we hope that when we open our wallet, it's like,
There's
oh,
$5
look, there's
there.
$5, I can save this. This flips it on its head. So you start by saving.
Yeah.
And you do that by setting up an automatic transfer the day your paycheck arrives, if you're a paycheck person, or at least the day when you think the most money is going to be in your account for people who are working not in a job.
Yeah.
You automate it, and you can do it to one goal. So you could say it's going to go into my retirement savings. Or you can automate a bunch of goals, and they don't need to be big amounts. It could be $25 for kids' education, $20 for retirement, something like that. So just automate it because there's nothing left over for most of us. If your income is volatile, some people's income goes like that every month, choose a percentage. So I'm going to save 5% and set up something so that you know that it's just 5% of whatever amount that is each month.
If you've got debt, pay it off. Pay it off aggressively. You know, what's interesting is that most people in debt who I talk to don't actually know how much they owe. And that's shocking. You would think, of course they would know. No, they don't, because who wants to proactively
stare at their debt all day?
Yeah, and just feel bad about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? You feel much better when you have a plan. And the number one question I ask folks when they tell me they have debt, I say, number one, do you know how much you owe? They never do. Number two, for the rare people who say, you know, 15,000 or 70,000, whatever, I say, what is your debt payoff date? You can actually plug it in. You can plug in a debt payoff calculator online. You can map it all out, and you will be able to know the exact month your debt will be paid off.
Based on how much you're spending right now.
Based on how much you're contributing to that debt payoff. Now, you will be able to see that if you add an extra $50 a month or $100 a month, that thing will actually oftentimes shorten by years because of the interest. It doesn't matter if it's going to take you 3 months or 4 years to pay off your debt. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you know the date.
Here's the thing with emergency money. More is always better. You hear all the time experts say, you should have 3 months of expenses set aside. Well, it depends. In the recession, when people lost their jobs, 3 months of expenses set aside wasn't enough. I'm a big encourager of having a year's worth of expenses set aside. Now, I know that's a large number, but I will tell you that people have come up to me who did that, who reached that goal. It might have taken them 5 years to get there, but when the recession hit and they lost their job, that year's worth of expenses set aside is what allowed them to keep their home and keep eating. And I've literally had people come up to me crying, thanking me when that happened. So more is better. I keep 2 years of expenses set aside in a money market account because I'm conservative. So the best way to fund your emergency account is always the best way to save money for anything, and that's to save money automatically. So when money comes in, your paycheck gets deposited, move money automatically from your checking account into a separate money market account or a separate savings account that you won't touch. It doesn't have checking, doesn't have an ATM card. You literally want to almost forget it's there, and it's truly emergency money.
What's the difference between saving and investing? And looking at this, I thought, you know what? That's a really good question, because we all automatically know, right, the quick difference. Saving is where I'm putting some money aside and I have it available. For anybody that's plugged in to me or to Dave or Ramsey Solutions, you all understand saving on a different level, because we associate that with an emergency fund. That means when I save, I'm putting some money back to be able to be there in case I need it. If there's a car repair, if there's a job-related issue, or if your kids need something, you've got a pile of money sitting there that's ready, willing, and able to help you. So that's savings, all right? But investing is different. Investing is where I'm building for my future. I'm growing money, right? So when you invest, here's what I want you to think of. You all know I'm from Kentucky, right? And so that's the land of, horses and farms and all that. So guess what? Here's the deal. I want you to become a money farmer. All right, because that's the bottom line. We're trying to grow money. And when I invest money, that means I'm gaining interest. That means I'm growing my money. So investing means I'm growing money. Savings is money that's there, ready, willing to protect you. So that's the difference.
Do you know how many people I know who feel really good that they saved money and they've got $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 in their savings account, but it's just sitting there? What they don't know and what nobody tells you is that they are invisibly losing money every single day. Why? Because they're earning less than inflation. The only way to truly grow that money is to invest it. Now, this is where people get scared. Investing. I gotta pick a single stock. I don't know how to do all those green letters on the screen looking like the Matrix. That's not investing, okay? Investing is low cost and long term. I log into my investing account about once a month. I spend less than an hour a month on investing, and it just works automatically. So I want you to remember, savings, while it's good, it's not enough. You save money for any midterm expenses you have. That's anything between now and about 5 years. Any money beyond that is for long-term investing. That's for retirement. That's for things that are 10 plus years out. Or that's simply if you've already filled up your basic emergency fund and savings account and you want to go beyond that. The true way to grow your money is not just to save it. That's a start. But I want you to go further and start investing.
To be a great investor, you have to be able to make decisions without perfect knowledge. In your business, you have a lot of knowledge. You can make those decisions. You're in control. Not so much so on the investment side. So the first step is not to wait till you have a huge sum of money, because the illusion is, when I have more money, then I'll invest, then it'll be worthwhile. The most important thing is get started with whatever you have, because if you do that, you get to tap into the power of compounding we all know about, but very few people use. I'll give you an example, a guy named Theodore Johnson. You probably never heard of him. Worked for UPS. Never made more than $14,000 in an entire year of his life, and yet when he retired he had $70 million and he didn't inherit a dime. So how do you do that? A friend of his said, you've got to stop being a consumer and you've got to become an owner. You've got to become an investor. And he said, I have no money to invest. I make $14,000 a year. And his friend said, no one has money to invest, but if the government came by and put a 20% tax above what you're paying now, you would scream, you'd yell, and you'd pay it. You'd adjust. I'm going to make you a wealthy man. He took the 20% off the top, never let him see it, put it straight in the investment account. It was worth $70 million, compounding by the time he was in retirement. So people don't really get how powerful that is. You don't earn your way to a fortune. You invest your way. You compound it. Most people are trading time for money. And as an entrepreneur, that's the worst trade you can ever make.